Hey friends, this is Pop Culture Makes Me Jealous, where we analyze pop culture through the lens of race or gender, and sometimes both. I'm your host, Julia Washington, and we are going under the sea to discuss Little Mermaid. The Little Mermaid was first released on November 15th, 1989, but before we dive in, let's meet our guest. SoSo Juv is a storyteller and 1/3 of the show, the My 5 Cents podcast. The show is the only show that takes top 5 lists that generate competitive debates. Our guest turns to judge. Yes, turns to the judge. To the judge. That's my bad. Sorry, hold on.
Oh, it's all too good.
Our guest turns to the judge to decide a winner. His energy and great perspectives have helped the show be ranked on Apple Podcasts under Society and Culture. Welcome to the show, SoSo Juv. I'm so excited you're here. You're like our first newbie in a while.
I'm in the building, SoSo Juv in the building with Jules. I am so happy to be here.
It's exciting. When you reached out and was like, let's do Little Mermaid, I was like, awesome, yes. And then when you noted that your one of your favorite movies was Gladiator, I was like, I've seen it once, we'll never watch it again.
And how did we get here?
Right, I was like, Little Mermaid, the Gladiator. Like,
yes, so I need an animated favorite movie, which is Little Mermaid.
Yeah.
And then I need a real time. So it always goes between Gladiator, The Best Man, Braveheart, so those are kind of like in there. But Little Mermaid, that's my jam.
I feel like that's a really good palate cleanser because like Braveheart and The Gladiator, those movies are intense. And we just recently covered Jurassic Park on another show that I'm due. And the whole time I was watching it like this, my eyes covered. I was like, this is so intense, I can't. I saw Gladiator once, and again, same thing. Like, I don't know when someone got stabbed.
Again.
Again. Okay, so we love to get into Google summaries of films on the show because everybody Googles everything, and Google dictates everything we do. It's so infuriating. So let's find out what Google has to say.
All right, this is what Google had to say. In Disney's beguiling animated romp, the rebellious 16-year-old mermaid, Ariel, is fascinated with life on land. On one of her visits to the surface, which, she's not supposed to be doing that, by her controlling father, King Triton, she falls for a human prince. Like, who doesn't fall for a human prince?
I mean, when he looks like Eric.
I mean, seriously. Determined to be with her new boo, Ariel makes a dangerous deal with the sea witch, Ursula, to become human for 3 days. When plans go awry for the star-crossed lovers, the king must make the ultimate sacrifice for his daughter. So that's the Google summary right there.
I feel like that's a decent summary because sometimes Google doesn't do a great summary, but I feel like this is pretty accurate.
For the most part, until you get to the end. Because at the end, it's like you're talking about the dad. Is this a story about a dad? Is it really?
Fair point.
I kind of want to dive into it. Like, what are we talking about? Are we talking about love? Are we talking about the dad's ultimate sacrifice, or the fact that he was an a-hole and kind of made this happen?
Okay, those are all excellent points because now, Google, you have told us that there's 3 different things happening in this movie, but really Disney likes to focus on one.
Yes, exactly.
Okay, so at the time of its release, Roger Ebert gave this movie 4 stars. And again, I'm always shocked when he gives a movie 4 stars because he's never that kind when it's a female-led movie. And he said, quote, "What's best about The Little Mermaid is the visual invention with which the adventures are drawn. There is a lightness and a freedom about the settings, from Triton's underwater throne room to storms at sea to Ursula's garden of captured souls. They look a little like tourists buried in Farmer Vincent's backyard in Motel Hell. The colors are bright, the water sparkles with reflected light, and there is a sense that not a single frame has been compromised because of the cost of animation." So I want to get into when you first saw this movie, what your experience was and what it is that you love about this film.
All right. So for me, first time I saw it, I was a kid. I might have been maybe 10, 11 years old. And you're asking me to go all the way back right now to try to really circle down
Get into those
a year.
saved files.
Yes, right? So for me, it was the music. This
Mhm.
was a musical at its best.
Yeah.
The Sebastian character being a music conductor turned babysitter. What a storyline. And the
Right.
music behind it, I mean, I think for me, that's what gets me attracted to Little Mermaid and why it became my favorite.
And I agree with you about the music. And I also agree with Roger Ebert about the visuals. Like, I remember feeling that opening scene where we first meet Eric, and he's just this charming fella with his cute, fluffy dog. And they're on a ship, and then the storm happens. And I just remember feeling like, oh, I mean, obviously, as a child, I wouldn't say shit's going down, but like as a grown up, you watch and you're like, shit's going down. Like, this is
Yeah, you
scary.
might have said "oh snap" back then. Oh
Yeah,
snap.
exactly. But it's like, this is it, just the way it went from a beautiful blue sky with the seagull flying to like this dark, gray, gloomy, terrifying event. Like, it still to this day looks really good.
Yes, yes, I have to agree with Roger Ebert on this one. The colors in the Under the Sea,
Yes.
the different fishes that you were introduced to, and the colors and just the whole spectacle of it all. He's
Mm-hmm.
spot on in that regard. I remember just watching that and my eyes just going all over the place, like, oh my goodness, there's just so much to look at and so much to see, which I think made the rewatchability factor or level very high.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I also kind of loved, I know that like now in modern era, we're giving it a little bit of a different lens view because, Ursula's painted as the bad guy, but like there's a part of her that I found very sympathetic now. Like, she's she's outcast, and like that's hard, and we don't know why she's outcast, and so she kind of has to manipulate people to like be in her life in a way. I don't know. I just felt like watching it because I watched the new one, which we'll talk about in a little bit, but I watched both of them back to back because I was like, I want to see how they compare. And I remember, and I was just thinking, it's like, I don't feel like Ursula's that awful.
Yeah. Well, how can you hate Melissa McCarthy? I mean, seriously. I mean, as
There's
soon as you
that.
see her, it's pure joy. So it was a little bit, and I know we're going to talk about this later, but it was a little bit like, wait a second, you usually make me laugh. I don't
Yeah.
understand. I have a little internal conflict that's going on
Right.
here.
Right.
Yes.
um, I do want to kind of get into a little bit more about the summary. And I like your point about how the summary gives us like essentially three different stories. When really we know that Disney likes to focus on one. So if you were to recommend this movie to somebody, and this isn't something that I was like, oh, I'm going to help you, I'm going to prepare you with this question, what would be the first thing you would lead with about Little Mermaid? Would it be the love? Would it be the father-daughter story? Would it be her desire to live on the surface? Like, what do you think is the
So if
main?
I am, see, this is an interesting question because I'm going to actually take a different approach.
Okay.
I am going to say to you, if I am pitching this show to someone, I'm going to say to them, Michael Jackson, or maybe even for a younger audience, Usher, right? The My Way album, 8701 Confessions, right? So you had that trilogy right there. Michael Jackson, you had Thriller, and actually even before that, oh gosh, what is the Michael Jackson album before that? The album before, oh my goodness, Off the Wall. I'm sorry.
Off the
Shoot.
Wall. There
Off
you
the
go.
Wall. You had Off the Wall, then you had Thriller, then you
Mm-hmm.
had Bad. So for Disney, you have Little Mermaid. I'm not
Mm-hmm.
going to count the DuckTales movie and anything like that. You have Little Mermaid, Beauty and the Beast, Aladdin,
Mm-hmm.
which just jumped off in as far as box office hits. So Little Mermaid is the one that really started this trend of Disney going to this other realm. And then, of
Mm-hmm.
course, after those three, you have Lion King, which
Right.
is the biggest of the big. And they found a formula of music and storytelling. Because if you think about it, you think about the soundtrack to Little Mermaid. the soundtrack to Beauty and the Beast, the soundtrack to Aladdin, and
Yeah.
they're raising the star power to the point that you get to Elton John in The Lion King.
Right.
This does not happen. They don't find this formula without the connectivity of Little Mermaid.
Mm-hmm.
In this Crab, Sebastian, Ariel, and her beautiful voice, the singing mixed in with this love story or whatever story that they're trying to tell with it, it just started off a new genre, or I would say era for Disney. So that would be my pitch. Not really based on the story, but the impact, the influence, because is Disney what it is today without those three movies?
Yeah, that's a really good point, because when I think about my childhood and I think about what CDs were on rotation for me in that era, the Little Mermaid soundtrack, the Lion King soundtrack, and the Aladdin soundtrack. And also, yes, Beauty and the Beast as well, because again, you know, every little girl who loves to read is like, oh my God, a princess who reads. Like, yay.
Yes, we are not all in distress.
Right. And I remember, like, it got to the point where it was like my siblings were like, you have to stop. We can't take it anymore, because they're significantly older than I am. So like they're well into their teenagehood while I'm listening to like the Lion King soundtrack. And of course my dad loves it because Elton John's on the soundtrack, right? Like that's a big
Yes.
deal. And I think you're right, and they have the right kind of star power for all of those movies as well, because James Earl Jones's voice is in The Lion King. He is unmatched with his voice, right? And then, of course, the Elton John song. And then with Aladdin, you had Robin Williams, which was an incredible performance from him. And so you're right. Like, it just gets better and better. Absolutely. I didn't even think about that.
Yes. So I don't know if I answered the question. Well, I think I answered the question. I just went about it a little bit differently there.
Yeah,
But
no, I love it. That's the whole point of our show, is like, how do we look at things in a different way that maybe, because I'm going to tell you what, the New York Times, sometimes I'm just like, do you even pay attention to what, like, like New York Times, you're killing me. Okay, so on May 26th of 2023, the live action version released in theaters, and after spending what felt like years, and it could have been 6 months, but because the internet makes everything feel longer, broiled in casting controversy, Haley Bailey was our Ariel princess, and the internet had some serious opinions, and not a lot of them were great. However, the New York Times did give this movie a mediocre review. With all of that said, RogerEbert.com did have this to say about Miss Bailey, and I'm so glad, because I was gonna, like, they're all like, Roger Ebert's already in hot water in the show, so I'm glad his legacy had this to say. Quote, Haley Bailey is radiant in the title role, expressive, energetic, and infinitely likable, with a mixture of girlish sweetness and womanly spine. She finds refreshing new avenues into songs, story beats, and even specific lines of dialogue that longtime fans have cherished from the original, end quote. And I got to tell you, when she sang, I got chills. Like, it was like just sing the whole time.
More music.
More music. I love that you're singing right now. It's so good. So I want to talk about how the 2023 version compares to the 1989 version.
Yes. So for me, and I'm gonna be fully transparent, I just watched the 2023 version. Like, just finished, the credits just rolled up. I said, all right, I need to get up in here and go ahead and record this episode here. So I will say, upon watching it at the beginning, and I don't know if this is why I was not so quick to go watch it, even though it is a person of color as the main character, and I definitely am all about supporting that. But Little Mermaid has a certain just vibe and level to me, and it was like I did not want to be disappointed, especially with the stakes so high. And then of course the internet talking the talk that they talk.
Right.
Well, let me get with the internet real quick. The internet, what I do love about the internet, there's this one meme out there where you have the toy redhead Ariel, then you have Eric, and then you have the new version of Ariel, and you have Eric just looking back, looking at the New Ariel's booty. That right there, that meme right there. I said, you know what? I love the internet just for this.
Yeah.
So that I think was my favorite out of all of the whatever communication. Now, I will say at the beginning of the movie, I was struggling because, of course, Disney wants to present one story. That's this love story.
Right.
And the love story wasn't there for me. The chemistry wasn't there for me. I didn't see love at first sight from Ariel in this version like you saw in the animated version.
Yeah.
I felt like what I saw was more just interest in this world that's out there and whoa, firecrackers, like what is going on here? I didn't see like, oh my gosh, I see Eric and I'm melting.
Yeah.
So that was
yeah. That's an interesting point because I was having a conversation with a friend the other day about it because I was like, again, like I said to you, her singing was amazing. Her voice is so good. Like she and her sister have this, I can't, like they sing and I cry. There's something about like the way animated Ariel just sort of becomes enamored with Prince Eric that didn't translate to the live action.
Yeah, even the statue scene, you know, the surprise in the original, it was a surprise that Flounder had for her, and then you get to see her glowing excitement, like, oh my goodness, you got me the best gift in the world. As opposed to in this version, she found the statue and she placed the statue in that little cavern there. So you didn't get to see that, oh, I'm so enamored with Eric. We don't even know if that's a statue of Eric in the 2023 version. It could be Caesar for all we know. So I felt like there was parts of that was disjointed in this love story.
Yeah, and this version's a little bit longer because I want to say the original is like an hour 47, and this one's either 2 hours or a little over 2 hours. And at first I thought, okay, that's because they've added new songs, and of course they add new songs because what else are you going to do?
Yes.
But then I immediately came home. Well, not immediately. The next day I watched the animated because it was like, I feel like I need to see, right? Like I said earlier, I need to see what's different because everyone in the movie theater I went with was like, this movie is amazing. And I was like, yeah, girl can sing, but I'm still like not sure.
Honestly, I was talking to the TV like, girl, don't do it. The 3 days ain't enough time. Like, I don't feel the chemistry with y'all. Don't do it. It's a bad bet. Don't do it.
Right. And then as I'm watching the animated one, the pacing is so much faster in the animated one. Like you just get into it real quick. You are there. But in this one, it felt like it took so long to get to where we needed to go. And I was just like, okay. So then I also did, I thought about it more and I was like, okay, I really leaned into the whole idea of like the worlds can mesh, right? Like as opposed to the love story. That's what my takeaway this time is like the water world and the human world do not need to be enemies anymore because you now have one of us, which wasn't my takeaway and still isn't my takeaway from the animated one. And I love duality shit because like I told you before we started recording, I mixed. So I love watching shit where it's like these worlds are coming together. They're not supposed to be together, but they came together and rose above. Anyway, I love that kind of stuff. So that's my takeaway from the live action one. Not like the love of these two people, but like, look, these two worlds can coexist. Yay.
Yes. So all right, if we're talking about takeaways, I have a bunch of takeaways.
Yes,
I'm gonna talk to you about my ultimate one. This is the ultimate takeaway is the queen being introduced, right? We don't know nothing about Eric's family before, right?
Right.
And the queen being a person of color. And I, at that moment, realized that adopting a white boy is the ultimate flex.
Yes.
Forget about a Lamborghini. Forget about a platinum chain. Forget about I don't want to hear your mansion. You know you've made it when you are adopting a little white boy. Like I said, wow, they are flexing all over this movie.
I hear no lies.
So as a bunch of takeaways, but that one, then it started getting me thinking, like, man, what if Denzel Washington just adopted this little white boy? Like, that'd be so. What if Jay-Z and Beyonce adopted a white boy. Like, what can you say to them after that?
Right.
Like, hey, you really made it. You adopted white boys, white children.
I mean, Jay-Z is a billionaire now, so I feel like that's honestly his next move. There's nothing
Right?
like thank you for doing all the stuff with Brooklyn Library. That's amazing. Bless you for that. Like, yes, literacy. But sir, you're a billionaire. Do something wildly eccentric.
Right? And adopted this little white boy. But what's crazy, because I really went down a rabbit hole with this whole thought, was like, all right, now say if they actually did, say if the headline was tomorrow, Jay-Z, Beyonce adopts little William, okay? We would tear them apart.
Mm-hmm.
We would be like, how could you? There's so many people of color that's in these unfortunate situations that you should adopt, but you don't get that same energy, vice versa, right? Like
Right.
Sandra Bullock, she's not getting that kind of energy for having a little brown skin. Brad Pitt and
Charlize Theron
Angelina
and
Jolie.
yeah.
Yeah, they wouldn't get that energy. So it would be interesting if that actually made a reality,
Mm-hmm.
what kind of conversation that would bring to the table
Yeah.
in regards to our own people talking about them, and then of course the other side of the house. So it'd be an interesting thing to happen.
Yeah. And I feel like sometimes Disney tries to do this thing, like to kind of piggyback onto what you're saying and then bringing it back into the Disney world. I feel like sometimes Disney's trying to say things like, we don't need to think deeply about why this world exists this way. Just accept it.
Yeah, exactly. I was kind of like, damn, what island is that? I need to ride over here,
Right.
because it seems like they chilling over here.
They're good. They're happy. They've got
Yes.
their
I mean, right? So it looks like this was probably done in the times of indentured servants, or maybe even slavery, right? But
mm-hmm.
all these black folk look very happy to
Yep.
be where they're at. So I was kind of like, yeah, who cares about the plot line in that regard? This is just what it is. Come to our magical world. That's definitely a
Yeah.
Disney trait.
Yeah. And you know what? That's becoming a more and more of a conversation that is happening now, is like people are doing colorblind casting. Like Bridgerton got a lot of heat from a certain subsect because it's like, this isn't historically accurate. And it's like, okay, but first of all, Bridgerton's just not real, period. Like, but it does kind of like turn this whole like, and I think that's part of one of the reasons why I like to do this show, because it's like, we don't want to forget how hard it really is to be a person of color in America, specifically Black people. But also at the same time, I feel like we also do deserve to see like joy in a time period where we weren't allowed to have joy.
Right.
But we can't ignore that it's still kind of shitty. Like there's still shitty laws. There's still really crappy things happening. Like the generations before us are like, we're so glad you don't have to deal with that. And I'm like, but don't we though?
I totally love the phenomenon that had transpired when Obama got elected.
Right.
It was like, oh, racism no longer exists. We have a black president.
Mm-hmm.
And then look at us now, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, George Floyd, racism doesn't exist. And all the countless examples that we can go into. So
yeah. And I feel like good for you, Disney, for like putting a Black woman in a position of power of being queen. Thank you. Also, we can't forget. Like, don't ask us to forget. Like, that's just mean.
Right. What's also mean is, I'll say, the casting, and this was one of my other points that or takeaways of King Triton, which was played by Javier Bardem,
Mm-hmm.
right? Who was also in No Country for Old Men. I don't know. Yeah, so I'm like, wait a second, King Triton is this dude? The guy who like has like an air pump that's like gonna thump you in your forehead and that's it, you're gonna die? I said, oh my goodness. And then you just saw the anger issues.
Yeah.
He's over here breaking Ariel's stuff, and I'm like, oh my God, he's going to thump her. That's it. It's over. It's over for Ariel. This movie's over. So yeah, I found it very interesting that they casted Javier Bardem as King Triton with his anger issues.
Well, the internet loved it. They were calling him Sea Daddy for like, what? They're like, look at this man. It's like, listen, I just feel like any angry man with a Triton, you right?
Yeah.
Like I don't want it. I don't want to be
Yeah.
near it. It's scary.
A trident that glows, mind you. Okay. A
Correct.
glowing trident. Okay.
Right.
So it's
Right.
like, wait a second. It might be bitch. It might be dark out, but I'll find you.
Yeah.
Okay. Like, no, no way, no way. I forgot to ask. Can we cuss? Is that okay?
Yeah, that's totally fine.
Okay,
Yeah.
yeah. Fuck that shit. Okay.
Yeah. The other thing that I thought was interesting in the new version is that they tell us that Triton and Ursula are siblings.
Right? Things you didn't know.
And I was like, wait a minute. Is that because I was like, is that where's my fairy tales children's book? Because I don't remember that being a thing, right? Like I was like, now we're just dealing with sibling rivalry.
You're pretty much. Yeah, I found that plot to be a little bit intriguing because they're siblings. You're a mer person, you're a half octopus. Are you still a mermaid if you're half octopus?
Right.
Half human?
Like how did this
so
species breed?
exactly. So I was in one place that I kind of got to a place where, okay, I can rationalize this. Fine. Mer people, we have the Hispanic Triton, we have the Black Ariel, we have, it seemed like we had an Asian, an Indian, we had all the races.
Everybody was represented. Yeah.
They made sure they checked all of the boxes with
Right.
Ariel sisters. And then you had Ursula, Auntie Ursula, who's this octopus woman. And I said, I'm not sure if I'm buying in or if this was even necessary to place the connection. And I guess that like had me going, well, with the lack of connection so far in the movie, maybe there was like, they felt like, hey, we have to force what the connection is between everybody.
Right.
Couldn't get across that the animated version did. You didn't need to know that they were siblings. You could tell they were rivals in the animated version, where I think like some of the connectivity issues that I spoke about before was definitely prevalent at that part.
Yeah. Yeah. And the thing that I also thought was kind of interesting, because I think Melissa McCarthy did an amazing job. She had the voice for it, like speaking voice for it. But one of my favorite scenes, which will surprise many of our friends listening, because I do not do scary, is when Ariel finally decides to go and like, so Sebastian and Flounder are looking for her in the animated version, and they like are kind of and like, so then you get into her lair, and like how they described in the review earlier, and you have all these little tiny sea creatures that she's, like that scene it sets the tone in such a way that this is ominous. Yes. And I don't feel like the same. I felt like that was missing from the movie. Like, could you not CGI these little squiggly things that are screeching for help? Like,
yes, help me. Yes, I mean, we CGI'd so much in the movie, we left that part out, Yeah, I definitely can agree with you on that part. And there were scenes like even in the Under the Sea, it seems like Sebastian sang the whole song by himself in the 2023 version, where in the animated version, you just had this orchestra of people involved in making this music. You had the fish that was playing the saxophone. You had the Duke of Soul there, and he's like, there wasn't that like. And I think once again, going back to that connectivity, there was just something disjointed about the 2023 version. That's why I can't really be too mad at the critiques in that regard. But yeah, as you said, Haley, she's a bomb. Let me talk about some other interesting things.
Yes, tell me everything.
And this is more on like the petty side of things. You talk about revealing things with the Ursula being the sister, but mermaids eat flowers? I really was thrown off by that. I didn't see that one coming. So in the marketplace, they hand Ariel a flower, and she just goes ahead and starts chomping on it. And I'm like, oh my goodness, like I didn't know that they ate flowers, so that was cool. Then going from fins to dancing. So I thought that this was interesting too. Another plot point is, okay, just a day ago, she couldn't walk, didn't know how to walk, and now she's dancing on this beach. And then what I really loved is the white guy is teaching her how to dance.
Every time. When that happens in a movie every single time. It's like in Mr. Holland's Opus when like Richard Dreyfuss is teaching Terrence Howard how to fucking have rhythm, and you're like, seriously? I'm not
Seriously.
like that's not believable, guys.
And then Terrence Howard is like, damn, the shit I gotta do for money. Like, what the hell? Like, yeah. So ultimately, those were kind of some of the things that I picked apart from the movie. The music, as I said, I was a big fan of the music in the first one, in the animated version. This version, I have to watch it again. I have to say the most enjoyable song of the 2023 version was definitely the Scuttle, the new song that they put out there. I thought that was nicely done in kind of announcing like, hey, Eric has found his queen. Did you have a favorite?
I honestly, I still love Under the Sea. I think visually the animated is still better.
Absolutely.
But the one, Kiss the Girl, I thought they did such a good job on that one because I've always loved that song because that was always such a fun one. Our choir director would get mad at us because if she was taking too long, we would start singing Kiss the Girl in choir practice because it was a really good one for like harmonies and all these things. And I thought in the live action version, they did a really good job. I was worried that they wouldn't be able to pull it off, and I thought they did. And that is one of my favorites to this day. Sometimes when I need to like be in a good mood, I'm like, let's pop on Kiss the Girl real quick.
Yeah, definitely. Oh, definitely. That's one of my favorites there. I don't know if I should tell this whole story, but I actually made an attempt to try to kiss a girl with Kiss the Girl in the background.
That's actually that's very rom-com. We approve.
Yeah. And let me tell you, it didn't work. Okay.
Aww.
So yeah, definitely got rejected there. So that's a story from one of my younger years there. But I agree with you. It was very nicely done in the 2023 version. All the way up to the climax there. And you have the glowing fish, then you have the lightning bugs, and I said, oh wow, they really did. And then Flounder spit in the water, and I said, oh, they actually they got this right. And I think maybe it's at that point I started warming up to the movie. I think
a really long way into the movie to start warming up to it.
Yeah. Because my comparison was what I thought was a cinematic achievement before, right? The animated. So I'm down on the connectivity. And then I think at that point, I'm starting to feel the connection.
Right.
Okay, I can rock with this. So to me, it's kind of a tale of two movies. Beginning half, I'm not, or maybe beginning 3/4, who's counting? I wasn't really engaged or involved, but boom, once that Kiss the Girl happened, then you get into Scuttle's song and the excitement. Now I'm like, okay, now we talking. Now I feel like we're bringing it Little Mermaid style.
Yeah. You've heard me mention that I am now a contributor to Jennifer Magazine, so I want to tell you a little bit about the publication. Jennifer Magazine supports a strong community of women and non-binary people who are challenging the status quo of ageism, choosing conscious consumption over status seeking, supporting brands that align with their values of inclusion, stepping into the empowerment found in self-expression, and talking about it. If you're tired of reading publications that seem to miss the mark when it comes to coverage of women, aging, and the gender binary, publications that are rooted in internalized racism and misogyny, then Jennifer Magazine is the publication for you. The publisher of Jennifer Magazine was once told that there's concern that Jennifer Magazine misses the mark, that it's not something people are asking for. And you know what? It's hard to ask for something when you don't know that something has been missing from your life. You can read Jennifer Magazine at jennifermag.com. There you can purchase monthly issues or even join their annual subscription and receive exclusive discounts. I started painting in 2020 as a way to cope and spent a year working with watercolor painting people. But then I started painting cards because I realized how much I loved sending cards but hated trying to sift through card aisles of big stores. I couldn't find anything that would capture the feelings I was going for. I even started putting my designs on tote bags and glassware. Then I got into candle making. Most of my work is literary inspired, designed for those bookish, pun loving folks. And now I've opened a shop where you can see most of these designs. Since everything is handmade, there's a lot of one of a kind items. When you purchase one of my items, you are purchasing a small piece of original artwork that you can send to a friend or frame at your home. So head on over to JuliaWashingtonProductions.com to check it out. Shipping is currently only available in the US. Or you could click the link in our show notes. Have you heard of silent reading parties? Well, the Jelly Pops Book Club is now hosting our very own silent reading party called The Reading Salon. We meet at a local business, order drinks and snacks, then read for an hour or so. And then after the reading time is over, you can stick around and talk with fellow book lovers about what you're reading or what authors you love or what books are your favorite. Purchasing a ticket gets you into the party, but a VIP ticket gets you a bag full of book-themed goodies. To learn more about the Reading Salon, click the link in the show notes. Come for the reading, stay for the friends. There's a theory floating around the internet that King Triton is the true villain, not Ursula.
Ooh.
In your professional opinion, since this is one of your top movies, what do you think about that theory?
As the main villain, yes, I could see it. Once again, I'm rewinding back to one, you got Javier Bardem.
Yeah.
He is a villain. I'm sorry. Outside of Old Country for Old Men, he was in 007. And he was a psycho in 007 as well.
That's right. I forgot about that.
An absolute psycho. I was like, oh my gosh, are you crazy in real life? Is this acting or is this like, hey, I have this inside of me, and if I do not get it on film, someone's gonna die for real. You know, like
Penelope Cruz, do we need to check on you?
Yeah, right. When was the last time we've seen her now, right? So I mean, somebody do a health and wellness check for her, please. A well-being check for her, please. So that, yeah, I can definitely subscribe to that because you can see he holds anger, right? And okay, if we're gonna go stereotypes and talk stereotypes, not only is he Hispanic, I wouldn't be surprised if King Triton, you know, if they said, all right, he's Puerto Rican in his movie, right? And the stereotypical Puerto Rican man is they are ones who are controlling and they might be abusive, right? That this isn't my talk. This is what the people say.
No, but that's
put that out there.
Yeah, but you're making a really good point because I do know that my friend, because I don't know where you're located. I'm in California, so we have a large Mexican population here, and that is definitely a thing that a lot of my friends are trying to like help this combat the stereotype of like, you know, this machismo and like controlling and like anger filled, and like how that is when a large perception of what people believe about Mexican men. So it sounds like that's true for Puerto Rican men too, which is interesting. That's an interesting stereotype, how it's sort of like just it's just now the blanket of like Hispanic Latino versus like Mexico or Puerto Rico or another Latino country.
Yeah, so I'm in Baltimore, Maryland now, but I grew up in the Northeast, born in New York, raised in Rhode Island, where there is a big Dominican, Puerto Rican community there. And yeah, that's what hey, watch out for those Puerto Rican men, you know, that would be the conversation in the talk. So to cast him and then have him as this kind of angry person with a trident that will tear your room apart if you don't listen to me.
Right. You're feeding into the stereotype.
Eating into it.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
I didn't even think about that.
Yeah. So villain, yeah, I think he was definitely made to be the villain, and he may be the main villain. And that if we really want to get into the cycle of abuse, it's not my fault, it's Ursula's fault that, you know, that all of this happened. But no, Dad, you didn't want to have a conversation with your daughter and talk about the why. You just wanted to say, hey, the rule is this. We don't mess with those people over there. Don't you dare mess with those people over there. And if you mess with those people over there, I'm gonna mess up your room.
Yeah, that's it. Because this whole thing could have been avoided if he just said, "What is it, honey? I'm listening."
Hello. And to find out at the end that you have a trident that can turn fins into feet, how about, hey, you know what? This is how you feel about this world? How about we go ahead and take a trip out there? We're gonna go ahead and get some legs, go out there to the main world, and let me show you what's up.
Because you could still do the "I'm listening," and then she says it, and then he's like, "No, I don't like it. We're done." And you still have the movie, and then you could be like, but she's like, "Daddy, no, like, let's go take a trip," right? Like,
And he has the power to, so go ahead, turn your fins into feet, walk up on that, show her the ghetto of that island, and then she'd probably be like, "Wait a sec, I want no parts of your world. What are you talking about?"
It's very convenient that she fell in love with the prince. Like, of all the people that she could have fallen in love with, it just happens to be the prince.
happens to be the adopted white boy prince. Okay, yes. We got to make sure that we are very clear about what's going on. The ultimate flex going on in this movie here, because she was found by a fisherman in the 2023 version. So it's not like the prince didn't save you. That fisherman saved you because you didn't know how to swim at that point. Right, exactly. So, yeah, out of all the people, it's the prince that you fell in love with.
Yeah. What are the odds? See, this is why rom-com, this is why I need to not love rom-com so much and movies so much, because I'm delusional enough to think like, oh, I'm sitting on a plane. No one's sitting next to me. Like, then like the handsome guy is going to sit next to me. Never the case. Never, ever the case.
You know, I've taken a lot of flights. I have never had an attractive woman sit next to me on a plane, ever.
The movies lie to us.
Yes.
So rude. Okay, so I want to talk about how you feel about this story as an adult versus when you first watched it, because it is in your top. It is one of your favorites. So like, how has that sort of like, as you've grown and as a person, like how has your perception changed about this movie?
So as a child, once again, it is the music that got me in. I'm not really even paying attention to all of these themes or sub-themes as a child. It's your typical love story, damsel in distress, Eric saves the day. That's in the original one. Mm-hmm. What I found a little bit keen about the 2023 version, Eric is in distress, which I was kind of like, yeah, you better be in distress. You got adopted into this shit. You're not a real prince. You got adopted, so you better be in distress. She's actually a real princess, okay? So, so she actually gets on the boat in the 2023 version and takes care of her. So, and were we supposed to say spoiler alerts on this? Like,
oh no, because people know. At this
point,
they
know we're killing this whole movie. Okay,
yeah, all right. Our longtime friends of the show know that we do not run a spoiler-free show.
Okay, great. So if you haven't seen it, I hope you enjoy our rendition of The Little Mermaid that we've given you, this remix here. Yeah. But yes, I love the fact that Ariel, because I think it goes into this woman empowerment movement. And I think Disney is cognizant of that. I think that they're very purposeful with that in their filmmaking. I mean, and I know we're not talking about like the whole Marvel series. We're not going to get into that too much, but there's a lot of strong female characters in that. Yeah. And you have to say that there's been a great shift since the Me Too movement has kind of taken shape and taken form, that we need to recognize these women, although we still won't give them equal pay. But, you know, we need to recognize them with these roles that they may have that may be absent. So you'll see in the original, the animated version, Ursula, when she's singing her song and she kind of has the break and it's like, what am I supposed to do without my voice? And in the original, she was like, you have your looks, you have your whatever,
your pretty face.
The pretty face. And all that stuff, like the body language that she's shaking it off.
Yep.
They don't have that in the 2023 version.
Right.
So I think they tried to be careful of some of the messages that they put out there, especially when it came to the female character and the female role in all of this, which I think may have even heightened the Triton as villain as opposed to Ursula as villain.
Yeah, because you know what? It's even her in the live action that takes down Ursula versus Eric in the animated.
Yeah.
And that's a big change too. So it
Absolutely.
adds yeah.
Absolutely. So watching it now, and then of course, as I'm older, Disney used to do those slick things where they would put inappropriate things into the movies, so like now I pick up on the fact that the priest has a boner while like reading the
Right.
vows, so it's like those things are different from me now. But it's so interesting seeing the small differences that may not be so small between the animated version and then this current 2023 version.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a really good point, because I think for me it was like, oh, obviously I knew that the songs were new and that changes the movie. But again, like I said earlier, I came home and not immediately, but the next day watched the animated, because it's like, I don't know what's different. Like I can't recall what's different. I just know that it's a little different. And those small changes, they're small, but you feel them.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. I have to say, I definitely was confused. Okay, I know we're not supposed to be talking about Black people's hair, but I was confused about the hair in this dingle hopper, right? So at the beginning of the movie, I'm like, does Ariel have dreads or she does not have dreads, right? So at some parts, it looks like she has dreads. Some, it's still kind of straight out there. And then later on, when she's on land, it looks like it's, twisted or dreaded out all the way. And it's like, wait, is the dingle hopper the reason why she's been twirling with that dingle hopper that it's now looked fully? Because that was one of the first things I looked at. And I was just like, I don't understand that dynamic. And then it might have just been poor CGI with her swimming in the ocean. And it's like, all right, it's supposed to look like Twister Dreads, but it's really halfway done. It was really weird to me. It was weird.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I understand what you're talking about, because I remember thinking, when they did get to the fork scene, I was like, how are you gonna do this? Not because she can't put a fork in through her hair, but because it looks different now that she's on land and it's dry.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Yeah.
that was I don't know, that was interesting. It was a small detail. It may not be anything big at all. It might have been them trying to execute things from the original into the new that really didn't land that well, because in the scene in the original, you have Ariel at dinner, this proper dinner, and she's just raking out her hair, her red straight hair, just like no curls at all. Let me just rake right through it. And in this one, it's like, let me twist. I can't even rake through this, so yeah, very, very, very different.
Gosh, that scene is so funny when she's like combing her hair at the dinner table. Like every woman in my family on both sides were like, that was like a, do not try that, right? Like it was a moment of like, don't you get any ideas? I wasn't getting any ideas. I'm not doing nothing.
Yes,
because my cousin and I would like act stuff out from movies, and my, our family members would be like, don't even try. We're like, oh, okay.
That one, leave that scene alone. Leave that scene alone.
You will not be getting a new fork to eat dinner.
Yeah, try your fingers at that point.
Yeah. I can't thank you enough so much for coming on the show. This has been so much fun having you here to talk about Little Mermaid. I also think it's funny. I don't know if you've seen this meme or maybe it was a TikTok, I don't remember, where they have like cartoon redheads and then their live action black actor versions.
No,
And
I have not seen that.
I didn't realize how often this happens until someone like compiled the data. And I was like, I'm not mad at that, guys. I feel like, sorry, Gingers, but like we get to play now.
Yes. Let us play. For real. That is great.
So I just thought it was fun. Playing into that, it's just funny to me that Little Mermaid is one of your favorites, because it's like it's like it feeds into that whole like redheads are always cast as black people in the real version. The
Yeah,
human version.
right. Oh my goodness.
Or even
But
in the
what I,
newest
what I-
Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle, April is a black girl in the new
yeah.
cartoon one, and I love, and she's such a great character, and I feel like she's
Oh,
such a
she
better
killed it.
character than what I grew up with. Anyway, I cut you off. What were you gonna
No,
say?
she
I'm
killed
sorry.
it. Absolutely. No, absolutely. Tangent. Absolutely killed it.
Yeah,
I love that version of April for real. But
yeah,
I
so good.
do think that this Little Mermaid, the live version, the 2023 version, they definitely left an opening for a sequel.
Yes.
The way it kind of ends, I feel like they can really go with the Meet the Fockers type storyline.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
I think we could now go the other way around with it. Eric is gonna grow some fins and
Yeah.
end up part of that world. Like, I can see it. Disney, make it happen, Disney. Okay.
We ask you, please.
Or if not, the Wayans brothers. If you guys can come in and do some sort of parody, please. We need that. Okay. We absolutely.
Oh my gosh. That would be so fun. I love that.
Yes, and I love the last scene there. Well, even before the last scene, they're having this touching moment, daddy-daughter moment.
Yeah.
Mermaid finally sheds her tear, right?
Yeah.
Bring it all into closure. He says, "Hello, Eric." Eric don't say shit. He don't say, "Hey, king." He doesn't bow. He don't do nothing. He's like, "Oh shit."
Yeah.
We got the king. We got the king here. I ain't gonna say shit, which is
Yeah.
probably a good move for all you people that are getting married out there. The men out there, just don't say shit to the father that's letting their little baby girl go. Okay, just say, "Hey, sir, thank you. Yes, I appreciate." As he's giving you the look, like you have had sex with my daughter, and I'm
Yeah.
not happy. Okay. So what's great is Triton pushes them off, and the closing scene is Eric looking like, "Thank God I don't have to row this fucking bitch again." Like, just bring me to the boat because I've been rowing this whole damn movie. I got blisters, and he's just sitting there like, "Whoo, thank God Triton hooked me up with this one."
Oh my gosh, that's so funny. He's like, that's the real reason why I'm marrying you, Ariel. I can't row boats anymore. I need support.
Right? We will never crash at sea. I mean, imagine that at that time. Shipwrecks are like one of the most concerning things happening out there.
Yeah.
But you now have the king of the sea got your back. That is like the ultimate boat insurance, right?
Yes.
Forget Geico. Like, you have King Triton making sure that you have all the right waves to get to where you need to go. I love it.
That's so funny. Forget Geico. They're overrated. You need King Triton.
Overrated. King Triton.
Oh my
Insurance.
gosh.
Let's do it.
Yeah. Can you please, you're welcome back anytime, because even though we're doing Disney this season because we only go every other week, in our bye weeks we talk about pop culture stuff all the time, so like relevant, like current day. So you're welcome back anytime. Please tell our friends at home where they can find you if they want to keep up with you and support your work.
Yes. So I am 1/3 host of the My 5 Cents podcast. It's a podcast about perspectives and the art of persuasion. So if we were to have Jules on the show, we might go into top 5 celebrity storylines of 2023, and we would have to pitch to her our list. And she would have to choose who is in 3rd place and who is in 1st place. And there's a whole lot of discussion on who is right and who is wrong. So I ask you all to look at the My 5 Cents podcast at all your streaming platforms. You can find us on Instagram at the My 5 Cents podcast. You can find me individually on Instagram at SoSo Juv on Instagram. So please follow, but really more importantly, join in on the conversation, because the conversations are fun. But thank you so much, Jules, for having me.
Anytime. Open invitation. And friends, I'm going to link everything in the show notes that he mentioned, so that way you have no excuse not to check out his work and to see what he's up to.